So this is the second presentation about the Android applications that were done in the fall of 2011. Robby Daly was, to tell the truth, the guiding light for this GS application. And he's going to talk a little bit about the architecture, the initial approach, and the second one, because from my point of view, as I said on the other video, it was really nice to have a case where the students could do something and then realize it needed to be fixed and go back and fix it, rather than just a one-off and say, that's it, we've got our grade, we're finished. So I'm going to hand it over to Robby and let him talk a little bit about it.
Hi, like Dr. Hodgson said, my name is Robby Daly, and our application was called GeoList, which you've already heard. And our initial problem with the architecture was that Android has a very loose sense of what an application is. Essentially, we have these activities, 3 or 4 of them, that are all sort of strung together. And for some applications that works, but for ours we needed something more centralized. So we went with the default, we tried stringing activities together, and what we found was that we were always losing data trying to pass them back and forth all the time. So we had to think of a new approach. Now what Android offers is one little piece of help, which is called the application class. Here we have something that can tie all of our activities together, something they can all access in common, where we can store our data and several operations on it so they can all talk to it at the same time. So what we ended up with was this repository architecture, which worked much better. The data is always where it needs to be, and it's never out of date, and it's never lost in passage. So here is a layout of our first architecture. Here we have 3 of our central activities, and they all talk to each other, but there's no commonality. So it gets confusing when you're trying to go from one to the other, and back and forth again. Things get lost, things get corrupted, and it's slow, to be frank. So we tried something else. We tried something with a list manager. So here we have our 3 activities, and they all talk to one common bond, the list manager. So supposing we add a new entry, it gets pushed to the list manager, and then all of the other activities have access to it. They don't have to ask for anything from the list managing or from the list activity itself. In this way, all the information stays up to date, and we have no problems losing data traveling back and forth. So we have a different picture of our same model here, a little simplified version. So this was our sort of a scalable model. We have a series of components that are all tied together with this one application repository. So instead of talking to each other, they have the ability to speak to the application instead. This was what solved our problem, which made the application faster and more consistent. And I think we have a larger version of the same model specific to our application. We have 4 essential activities. The list activity, which manages entries, the split activity, which is what you open to, and the map activity. They all do different things, but they require the same data. So where are they going to get it? From the primary application. They never have to speak to each other, they only have to speak to the main repository. So here are the technical details of the application. When we started, we wanted to be future-proofed, so we decided to develop for Android 4.0 ice cream sandwich. But we also know that 80–90% of Android phones are still running 2.3 or below. So we made it work with 2.3.3, and it works with both phones and tablets. It's cross-device compatible. We thought that was an important thing to keep because there are a lot of different Android phones, there are a lot of different Android devices. We want to make sure we work on all of them. So in the end, we had under 1,000 lines of code, which we were very proud of, in 19 different classes, including activities and layouts. And the entire application came together in under 100 hours, which we were very proud of. It came together very quickly, and it looks great, so we're very proud of it.
I guess I have 2 questions, and they're fairly standard. What did you feel you got out of doing this? That's the first question.
Experience. Essentially, this was a real-world project. This is something that is applicable. You know, we could put it up for sale or, you know, or sell it to the school, but part of it is learning how to work with a team, you know, learning how you're going to code in real life, how you have to be open and able to work with each other. And so that was the big thing you learned how to do in this course is, you know, how to work with other people, how to be a software engineer in the real world.
Do you have to add to that, Simon?
Sure. The idea of changing from theory to a real life thing was a very exciting experience, which is also including working as a group, as a team, and everyone has a different mentality, a different way of thinking, different way of putting codes, and we try to find something in common to accomplish everything as if one person actually had done it. It was kind of unique and challenging, and it was very, very interesting experience for me, I think, for the first time.
And sort of for the future, are there things that you think could have been done differently and better in the course? So it won't embarrass me because.
So far, personally, about myself, I think it's a very big achievement because that was my first time even to think of doing it. So, of course, I would maybe with the time that more I do of application, I would think of more goals and more idea I could have just implement for the project we had. But so far, I think we came to a complete picture. Very simple, easy, complete picture. That's how I put it.
Do you have anything to add to that, Robby?
Things we might change, you know, we change as technology changes. So the option to write an iOS application or a web application or an Android application, you know, they all involve the same principles,
Yeah.
but you can pick something you really love and something that you'd be happy to hold on to afterwards. So, you know, it was a big step for us to go from theory to practice, but I think having more options, more places to go would be even more exciting.